I was standing in my office at Thompson and Associates, reviewing the partnership documents my lawyer had prepared, when my phone buzzed with what I thought would be a routine notification. Marcus had left his laptop open in the conference room again. The third time this month. I walked down the hallway to close it before heading out for the evening, already picturing how I'd announce his promotion to partner at our firm's 35th anniversary gala next Friday. 30% equity. Exactly what my late wife Catherine had suggested before she passed. Take care of Marcus like he's your own son, she'd said during those final weeks. He needs guidance. But when I reached for the laptop to close it, I saw the open email thread. The subject line read, Thompson Takeover Timeline. Revised. My hand froze above the keyboard. Marcus's email to someone named Vanessa Hutchins. His wife? I'd met her exactly twice at family gatherings, where she'd barely acknowledged my existence. I should have closed it right then. Should have walked away. Instead, I scrolled up and read the entire conversation, each line hitting me like a physical blow. Phase 1, complete. Richard signed the CFO access documents. Sarah thinks she's helping him transition toward retirement. She has no idea we're documenting everything for the incompetency filing. My legs felt weak. I sat down in Marcus's chair, still staring at that screen. There were attachments, voice memos. One labeled, Richard Forgetting Client Names Compilation. I clicked it with shaking hands. It was me. Mixed up client names from 6 months ago when I'd had that terrible flu. They'd recorded it, saved it, weaponized it. The next email was worse. Vanessa to Marcus. Baby, once we get the dementia diagnosis from your guy at UCLA Medical, we file for conservatorship. My firm already has the paperwork drafted. Richard signs over power of attorney, thinking it's temporary. We force the sale to Meridian, split the $8.2 million buyout, and he ends up in that memory care place in Escondido. The cheap one. Why pay more when he won't even know where he is? I sat there, in the empty office, as the San Diego sunset painted everything orange through the windows. 35 years of building this firm. 6 years of training Marcus, believing I was honoring Catherine's memory. $180,000 for his architecture degree at USC. $220,000 for the down payment on his Coronado house, because Vanessa deserves to start married life somewhere beautiful. Countless weekends teaching him everything I knew about design, about clients, about integrity. All of it had been a setup. I was just the old fool standing between them and their payday. I took photos of every email with my phone, my hands steadier now. Then I forwarded the entire chain to my personal email before closing the laptop exactly as I'd found it. In the reflection of the dark screen, I saw someone I barely recognized. Someone who'd confused loneliness after Catherine's death with family obligation. Someone who'd been so desperate not to be alone that he'd handed his life's work to a stranger wearing a nephew's face. The drive home to my La Jolla house felt longer than usual. I kept seeing Catherine in my mind, her face during those last conversations. Promise me you won't end up alone, Richard. Marcus is family. He'll take care of you. What would she think if she knew her dying wish had been twisted into this? I made coffee, even though it was 8 p.m., just needing something to do with my hands. Then I opened Facebook, something I rarely checked. Sarah Chen, my CFO, had tagged me in a post from earlier that day. It was a photo from our office, the whole team gathered around the conference table. The caption read, "Grateful to work with legends like Richard Thompson, who's taught us so much over the years. Excited for next week's celebration." The comments underneath told a different story. Marcus had written, "Learning so much from the old guard before they hang it up. Change is coming," with a winking emoji. 3 of his friends had responded with laughing faces and comments like "about time" and "boss moves." I clicked on Marcus's profile. His latest post was from 2 hours ago, a photo of him and Vanessa at some expensive restaurant in Del March. The caption said, "Celebrating early. Big announcements coming next Friday. Some people don't know when it's time to step aside gracefully." Vanessa had commented, "So proud of you, baby. You've earned this. Earned this. With my money, my teaching, my trust." My phone rang, making me jump. Marcus's name on the screen. I almost didn't answer, but some instinct made me pick up. "Uncle Richard. Hey, Just wanted to confirm you're still good for the gala next week. Vanessa and I are really looking forward to it." His voice was so normal, so friendly, that for a second I wondered if I'd misread everything. Then I remembered the emails, the recordings, the memory care facility they'd already picked out for me. "I'll be there," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Great. And hey, I know this is last minute, but Vanessa's parents are flying in for it. They're pretty excited to see the firm. Mind if we add them to the guest list? Her dad's a real estate attorney. Might be good connections for us." Us? Like we were partners already. Like the hostile takeover was already complete. "Of course," I said. "The more the merrier. You're the best, Uncle Richard. Seriously. I know I don't say it enough, but everything you've done for me and Vanessa, we really appreciate it. You're like the father I never had." I ended the call without saying goodbye, something I never do. The coffee had gone cold in my hands. That phrase, "the father I never had," kept echoing in my head. My brother Daniel had died when Marcus was 8. I'd stepped in, paid for private school, college, graduate school, gave him a job when no other firm would take someone so inexperienced. And this was how he showed appreciation. I walked to my home office, pulled out the folder labeled Succession Planning that my lawyer Thomas Rodriguez had prepared last month. Inside was the partnership agreement, ready for signatures. 30% equity to Marcus Thompson, vesting over 5 years, contingent on continued employment and good standing with the firm. I'd been so proud of that document. Proof that I was honoring Catherine's wishes, that I wasn't some lonely old man clinging to control. Now I looked at the same papers and saw something different. Proof that I'd been an easy mark. Someone so afraid of dying alone that he'd gift-wrapped his legacy for wolves. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my desk, going through 6 years of files. Every project I'd let Marcus lead, every client meeting where I'd let him take credit for my designs. The Seaport Village renovation that won us regional recognition, my concept, his presentation. The sustainable housing development in Carlsbad, my engineering solution, his signature. The pattern was so obvious now that I couldn't believe I'd missed it. Around 3 a.m., I found Catherine's old journal in my desk drawer. I'd kept it after she passed, reading it sometimes when I missed her voice. I opened to one of the last entries, dated 2 weeks before she died. "Talked to Marcus today about Richard's future. He promised me he'd look after Richard when I'm gone, make sure he doesn't work himself to death. There's something in his eyes, though. Can't put my finger on it. Hope I'm wrong." She'd seen it. Even dying, even in pain, Catherine had sensed something off about Marcus. And I'd ignored that instinct because I was too desperate for the family connection she'd wanted me to have. The next morning, I got to the office at 6 a.m., 2 hours before anyone else. I made copies of everything. The partnership documents, the financial records showing the $400,000 I'd invested in Marcus over the years, the emails I'd photographed from his laptop. Then I called Thomas Rodriguez at home. "Richard, it's barely 7. What's wrong? I need you to meet me at the office. Now. And bring paperwork for a complete corporate restructuring." A restructuring? I thought we were doing the partnership agreement next week. "Change of plans. I'll explain when you get here." Thomas showed up 40 minutes later with his briefcase and a concerned expression. I handed him my phone with the email photos pulled up. Watched his face change as he read, from confused to angry to professionally calculating. "Jesus, Richard, this is bad. They're planning conservatorship fraud. That's criminal." He kept scrolling. "And they've already talked to Meridian Architecture about a buyout? That's your biggest competitor. They'd love to absorb your client list." "Can they actually do this?" I asked. "The conservatorship thing? If they can get a doctor to say you're mentally unfit, and if they're your closest family? Yeah, potentially. California conservatorship laws are tricky, especially if you've already given them financial access." He looked up at me. "Please tell me you haven't signed anything giving Marcus power of attorney." "Not yet. But I did make him an authorized user on the firm's main account last month, for convenience." Thomas closed his eyes. "Of course you did. Okay. First thing, we revoke that immediately. Second, we restructure the ownership before the gala. Third, we document everything about your mental competency. I'm talking full cognitive evaluation, the works. How fast can you do this? The restructuring? If we move now, I can have new operating agreements drawn up by tomorrow. The evaluation will take a few days to schedule. He paused, studying my face. What are you thinking, Richard? I'm thinking Marcus has been counting down to next Friday for months. I'm thinking he's invited people to watch him take over my firm. And I'm thinking we let him believe it's happening right up until the moment I pull the rug out. Thomas almost smiled. You want to wait until the gala. I want everyone to see exactly who he is. We worked all day in my office with the door closed. Sarah knocked twice asking if I needed anything, but I sent her away. By 6 p.m., Thomas had drafted new operating agreements that converted Thompson and Associates into Thompson Architecture Group, a new entity I owned 100%. Marcus's name appeared nowhere in the documents. We'd file them with the state on Thursday, 24 hours before the gala. What about the equity you promised him? Thomas asked. I promised partnership to someone who earned it. Marcus hasn't earned anything. He's stolen 6 years of my time and expertise while plotting to steal everything else. I signed the last document. What about the money I gave him? The education? The house down payment? Legally gifts. You can't reclaim them. But Richard, there's something else you should know. Thomas pulled out another folder. I did some digging after you called. Marcus and Vanessa have been living way beyond their means. That Coronado house? They're 3 months behind on the mortgage despite Marcus's salary. They've got credit card debt north of $150,000. This isn't just about ambition. They're desperate, which explained the timeline, the rushed planning. They needed that buyout money to avoid financial collapse. Let them be desperate, I said. The next few days were careful theater. I went to the office like normal, reviewed projects with Marcus like nothing had changed. He was relaxed, confident, already acting like he owned the place. During our Tuesday morning meeting, he actually corrected one of my design suggestions in front of the whole team. Sarah gave him a sharp look, but Marcus just smiled. Just thinking out loud, Uncle Richard. You taught me to speak up when I see a better solution, right? I did, I agreed pleasantly, and watched him strut back to his office like a peacock. On Wednesday, Vanessa stopped by the office. First time she'd ever visited. She wore an expensive suit and had that shark smile people get when they think they're winning. Richard, so nice to see you. Marcus talks about you constantly. He's so grateful for everything. I'm sure he is, I said. We're both really excited about Friday. Marcus says you have some big announcements planned. She tilted her head, studying me. He also mentioned you've seemed a bit forgetful lately. Missing meetings, confusing names. If you ever need help managing things, please know we're here for you. Family takes care of family. There it was. The setup. Planting seeds of concern about my mental state, making sure people heard her express care and support. Building her conservatorship case in real time. That's very thoughtful, Vanessa. But I'm feeling sharper than I have in years, actually. Something flickered behind her eyes. Annoyance, maybe. But she recovered quickly. Of course. I'm sure it's just stress. Running a business at your age can't be easy. At your age. 62 wasn't exactly ancient. But to people like Vanessa, anyone over 50 was 1 foot in the grave. Thursday evening, Thomas filed all the restructuring documents with the California Secretary of State. At 5:47 p.m., my phone pinged with the confirmation. Thompson Architecture Group was now official. Marcus Thompson had 0 ownership, 0 authority, and as of tomorrow morning, 0 job. I slept well that night for the first time in a week. Friday morning arrived with typical San Diego sunshine. The gala was scheduled for 7 p.m. at the Hotel del Coronado's Crown Room. I'd rented the entire space, invited 200 people from across the California architecture community. Clients, colleagues, competitors, journalists. Everyone who mattered in our field would be there to witness what Marcus thought was his coronation. I got to the office at 8 a.m. wearing my best suit. Marcus was already there, also dressed up, practically vibrating with excitement. Big day! Uncle Richard! I've been thinking about my acceptance speech all week. Your acceptance speech? For the partnership announcement, I want to thank you properly in front of everyone. Really acknowledge everything you've built and how honored I am to carry it forward. The audacity was almost impressive. He'd already written a speech for the position he planned to steal. I'm sure whatever you say will be memorable, I told him. Sarah caught my eye across the office. I'd briefed her yesterday about everything. She'd been horrified, then furious, then coldly professional. Whatever you need, she'd said. That little shit won't know what hit him. At 6 p.m., I drove to the Hotel del Coronado. The crown room looked perfect. Round tables with white linens, a stage with a podium, 2 large screens for presentations. The staff was setting up the bar. Everything exactly as I'd planned months ago when this was supposed to be a celebration. Now it was something else entirely. Marcus and Vanessa arrived at 6:30, Vanessa's parents in tow. Her father was a bulky man in an expensive but poorly fitted suit. Her mother had the same calculating eyes as her daughter. They made a point of greeting me warmly, too warmly. The kind of warmth predators show before they strike. Richard, thank you so much for including us tonight, Vanessa's father said, pumping my hand. Vanessa's told us so much about your remarkable firm. We're excited to see where Marcus takes it next. Where Marcus takes it. Not where we take it together. They weren't even pretending anymore. By 7 p.m., the room was full. Clients, employees, industry colleagues. Marcus kept checking his watch, eager to get to what he thought was the main event. Vanessa had positioned herself near the stage, ready to film his big moment. Her parents sat at a front table, looking smug. I took the stage at 7:15. The room quieted. 200 faces turned toward me with varying expressions of respect, curiosity, and in Marcus's case, barely contained anticipation. Thank you all for coming tonight, I began. 35 years ago, I opened Thompson & Associates in a tiny office in Old Town with nothing but a drafting table and a dream. My wife Catherine believed in that dream when no one else did. She was my partner in every way that mattered, and I miss her every single day. I saw Marcus shift in his seat. This wasn't part of the speech he expected. When Catherine passed 3 years ago, I was lost. Our son had died in college. We had no other children. I was alone with a successful firm, but no one to share it with. That's when my nephew Marcus came to me, fresh out of graduate school, looking for an opportunity. Marcus smiled, thinking this was building to his moment. I gave him that opportunity, trained him personally, shared 6 years of knowledge, invested $180,000 in his education, and $220,000 in his home. I treated him like the son I'd lost because my dying wife asked me to take care of him. The room was completely silent now. People were starting to sense this wasn't a celebration speech. Last week, I discovered how Marcus planned to repay that kindness. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the screen system. These are emails between Marcus and his wife Vanessa, discussing their plan to have me declared mentally incompetent, force me into a cheap memory care facility, and sell my firm to Meridian Architecture. The emails appeared on the large screens, 200 people reading the same words that had destroyed me a week ago. The room erupted in gasps and muttered curses. I watched Marcus's face go from confused to pale to desperate. That's not those are taken out of context, Uncle Richard. Please. I also have voice recordings of you documenting what you called my mental decline. Times I mixed up names while recovering from the flu last winter. You saved those recordings as evidence for your conservatorship filing. More gasps. Marcus was standing now, Vanessa pulling at his arm, both of them looking trapped. Her parents were trying to slide their chairs back, distance themselves. The gala tonight was supposed to announce Marcus as my new partner, 30% equity in the firm. But as of yesterday, Thompson & Associates no longer exists. I've restructured into Thompson Architecture Group, which I own entirely. Marcus is not a partner. As of this moment, he's not even an employee. You can't do this, Marcus shouted. His face was red, that mask of friendly nephew completely gone. I've worked here for 6 years. I'm family. You recorded me having the flu. You picked out a memory care facility. You planned to have me declared incompetent so you could steal everything I've built. My voice was steady, cold. That's not family. That's fraud. And Thomas Rodriguez, my attorney, has already filed a formal complaint with the California Bar Association regarding Vanessa's involvement in drafting conservatorship documents under false pretenses. Vanessa made a choking sound. Her law career was over, and she knew it. Sarah Chen will escort you both from the premises. Security is waiting outside to ensure you don't return to the office. Your personal items will be mailed to you. Marcus tried one more time, his voice breaking. Catherine wanted you to take care of me. She told you to. Catherine wanted me to have family. Real family. Not con artists counting days until they could cash out my life's work. I looked at him with something close to pity. She saw through you at the end. I found her journal. She knew something was wrong, but hoped she was mistaken. She wasn't. 2 security guards appeared at the side of the room. Sarah stood between them, stone-faced and professional. Marcus and Vanessa had no choice but to leave, walking past 200 silent witnesses to their humiliation. Her parents scurried out behind them. After they left, I stayed on stage. The room was still processing what they'd witnessed. I called this event a celebration, and it will be one. Thompson Architecture Group represents a new chapter. Excellence, integrity, and genuine mentorship. To that end, I'm pleased to announce the promotion of Sarah Chen to Chief Operating Officer and the creation of an apprenticeship program for 5 new architects from underserved communities. Full scholarships, full mentorship, no strings attached, except the promise to pay it forward someday. The room erupted in applause. Real applause this time, not the polite corporate kind. Sarah was crying at her table, hands over her mouth. The journalists were typing furiously. This would be the story of the year in our industry. Later that night, after everyone had gone home and the Crown Room was empty again, I drove along the coast back to La Jolla. My phone buzzed with texts. Congratulations, support, interview requests. I ignored them all. Instead, I found myself at the cemetery where Catherine was buried. I sat on the bench near her headstone as the moon rose over the Pacific. I kept my promise, I told her. Just not the way either of us expected. I'm not alone anymore. I've got Sarah, the new apprentices, a firm that means something again. But I'm done confusing desperation for family. The breeze coming off the ocean was cold but clean. For the first time since Catherine died, I felt like myself again. Not the lonely widower desperate for connection, just Richard, enough on my own. 6 months later, I hired a young architect named David Martinez through the apprenticeship program. 24, raised by a single mother, first in his family to go to college. He reminded me of myself at that age, hungry, talented, genuinely grateful for the opportunity. I trained him the same way I'd trained Marcus, but this time I watched for red flags, checked my instincts, and mostly, I remembered that teaching someone isn't the same as giving them everything. Marcus and Vanessa declared bankruptcy 3 months after the gala. The Coronado house went into foreclosure. Vanessa was disbarred for ethics violations. Last I heard, they'd moved to Arizona to live with her parents. I didn't feel satisfaction hearing that. Just a kind of sad acknowledgement that some people will always choose the shortcut over the work. But David? David stayed late every night, learning, asked questions, challenged my designs respectfully, reminded me why I loved architecture in the first place. One evening, as we were reviewing his first solo project, he looked at me seriously. Mr. Thompson, I just want you to know, I'm not going to let you down. This opportunity, what you're teaching me, I won't waste it. I know you won't, I said, and I meant it, because this time I wasn't teaching out of loneliness or obligation. I was teaching because it was right. Catherine would have approved of that. Not the Marcus disaster, but the wisdom that came after, the boundaries, the clear-eyed assessment of who deserved trust and who didn't. Late at night sometimes, I still pulled out her journal, read her words about family and connection, and I understood now what she'd really meant. Not blood relation, not desperate attempts to fill the empty spaces grief creates. Real family is built on respect, integrity, and genuine care. Everything else is just people using the word to get what they want. I was 62 years old when I learned that lesson. Better late than never.